Good afternoon. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. So it's in the evening, and going to go and make a video. Went out this morning, me and another hand, and rode through the mountains and gathered more strays, and then came home and unsaddled the horses and got a bite to eat at about 4 o'clock, and then went out and started raking hay. It's hay season. But a bit of storm came through, so we got shut down a little early, so I had a little bit of extra time. So I want to make a video on a subject. I want to answer a question, probably out of all the questions I've got on the channel so far. This is one of the questions I've been asked the most. And so I want to address it. I want to answer it for you today. A lot of people ask, how do I get into the wrangling lifestyle, the wrangling life, or cowboying on a ranch? Not raised in that life, not raised out west, but it's where my heart is. It's what I want to do. How do I get started? And I think the best way to start in answering this question is just to tell you how I got in it. Okay? And so in 1992, I was 25 years old, had been married for a year, had a new baby, and had a dead-end nowhere job at a Berkline furniture factory in Livingston, Tennessee. My wife and I were living in Alpine, and I was driving to Livingston and working in a factory in the shipping department where they made recliners, Berkline recliners, and was not happy and knew that this was not the life I wanted to live. This was not who I wanted to be. And so I'm going to kind of truncate this story down because there's some important parts I want to highlight on and that I want to bring out later. So I found in the back of Western Horseman, I found a classified ad for a outfitter out of Chalice, Idaho. And I remember this was in 92. This was a lot of years ago. And they said, if you'll come out and work, then we will teach you outfitting and packing. You won't have to pay for the school, but we won't pay you to work. And I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And so I talked to my young bride about it, and she wound up, we placed her with family. She stayed with family. And I said, when I get settled out there, I'll send for you. And so we left Alpine, Tennessee. Everything we owned, we fit in my, I think it was a 1969 Ford F-150, the bed of the truck. Went back to Kentucky, where I'm from. And so she caught a flight for her dad's. And I sold the truck and sold what little bit we had. And went down to the Amish community and bought a saddle and a pair of chaps. I didn't know beans from apple butter. Okay, I look back now, and that's one of the reasons I've started this channel, is so some of the things that I went through, I didn't have anybody teach me anything, nothing. And so I some of the things I went through, maybe you won't have to. But I went down and I bought an Amish-made saddle and a pair of chaps. The chaps were those thin, suede with fringes like people wear for like horse shows. I didn't know any better. So I bought them. Got a bus ticket. I called the company out there, called the fella and said, okay, I'll do. So I worked it out. I said, I'll be at the Greyhound bus station in, I always get these mixed up. I think Idaho, Twin Falls or Idaho Falls. I get them mixed up. But I said, I'll be in such and such date at such and such time. I'm catching the Greyhound bus. I'll be at the bus station. He said, somebody will be there to pick you up. So I had a cardboard box with my saddle, my chaps, my stuff in it, had an Army duffel bag with an Army surplus sleeping bag and some clothes and stuff. And my dad's younger brother drove me to Elizabethtown, Kentucky, to the Greyhound bus station. And I set out, I headed out. When I got to the bus station in Idaho, which was about 80 miles from Chalice, there was no one there to meet me. And my box with my saddle and my chaps and everything in it never did arrive. I don't know if it had been stolen. I don't know if Greyhound had sent it someplace else and it got lost in the shuffle. I don't know. It never did arrive. And nobody was there to pick me up. So I waited around after a while, and I remember this was years before cell phones and such. So finally I went to the counter and I said, which is the road that goes to Chalice? And they pointed and they said, it's out there. I said, okay. So I picked up what had not been stolen and what I had and walked out on the edge of the highway, sat my stuff down and stuck out my thumb. And I said, if I am not willing to do what it takes, then I never wanted this bad enough in the first place. So I spent all day out there, and eventually somebody came along and said, where you headed? I said, I'm heading to Chalice. And they said, we'll give you a ride the rest of the way. And so several hours later, come about sundown, about dark, I rolled into Chalice. Found a payphone out in front of a gas station, called the ranch. The foreman on the ranch had never heard of me. He said, I don't know who you are. He said, the boss did not tell me you were coming. He didn't tell me anything about you, and he's not here. He's white water rafting with his girlfriend through the Grand Canyon. And he said, but I'll come get you. So he drove out and picked me up, took me out to the ranch, put me in the barn that night. And we worked around there for 2 or 3 days, and then we caught a bush plane out to the base camp. Now what we were doing was we were working in the summer through all these camps throughout the mountains that they use in the fall for hunting. But this was national wilderness area, and you could not have anything that was motorized. You couldn't have anything with wheels on it. So there was a grass strip that an airplane could come into. Otherwise, it was a 3-day horseback ride to get out there. And so we flew in, and so we were using crosscut saws and axes to cut firewood all summer to stock firewood in these hunting camps. And in return for that, in the evenings and on the weekends and stuff, they would teach us packing and outfitting. And so that's where I wound up. And was there for a while, but I was young, and I was proud, and I was hot-headed, and I was a 7th generation hillbilly from Kentucky. And there were some things come up, and I said, I don't play that game. We don't do that. And so when one of the supply trips plane came out, I got on it and left. And so when I arrived back in Idaho, I was broke. I wasn't getting paid. I learned what I had learned, but I didn't have any money. And my boots had completely rolled over at the heel, and I had holes about that big in the soles. Now there's a reason for the story, the reason I'm telling you this. I had found a roll of duct tape, and so every morning I'd get up and duct tape soles of my boots so I could walk. So I get to the ranch and I said, well, what am I going to do now? And I said, well, I'm not going back to Kentucky, not like this. I'm not going back a failure, and I have not accomplished what I set out to do. So I said, you know what, I think I'll go to Cody, Wyoming. I met some folks from Cody a few years before that. I liked the sound of it, and I think that's what I'll do. So I hitchhiked to Cody, Wyoming. And I got a ride as far as Jackson Hole from Chalice. And I arrived in Jackson Hole, again, late in the evening, and my ride dropped me off. And so I called my wife and my father-in-law to report, let them know I was out of the mountains and what the situation was. And they found out I was completely broke, so my father-in-law wired me $200. And so I went in and bought me another pair of boots. And so then I walked out about dark, out on the edge of Jackson Hole, stuck my thumb out until it became dark. Nobody picked me up. So I walked down off the highway down under the willow trees down there, rolled out my sleeping bag and went to sleep. Woke up about daylight with the sound of the birds and the sun coming up and the traffic starting to pick up, rolled my sleeping bag up, put my hat on, walked back up on the highway, stuck my thumb out. Took me all day to get through Yellowstone Park. Made it out the east entrance of Yellowstone Park and got a ride as far as Pahashka Teepee. That's Buffalo Bill's old hunting lodge out there. And so I'm standing out in front of that hunting lodge with my thumb in the air. There's not much traffic. And an old pickup truck comes in from the Cody direction. 2 cowboys in it. They pull up, get out, and go in the bar. I'm standing there for a little bit, and I'm like, if you don't want it bad enough to do something about it, then you don't want it. So I walked in the bar. There was only 2 of them in there in the saloon. And so I walked up to them. I said, are you boys from Cody? Yeah. Are you going back to Cody when you're done here? Yeah. Can I get a ride? Well, sure, man. Throw your stuff in the bed of the truck. Come in and have a beer. So I rode back to Cody with them, spent the night. Next day, found a campground in Cody, Wyoming. I had gone the night, that day or the night before, to Walmart and got a little one-man pup tent and something to eat. And I was pretty much out of money at that point. It cost $6. There's an important lesson here. It cost $6 a night for a place in that campground to pitch my tent. But they had shower facilities out there in the men's and the women's restroom out there. And so I paid $6 a night to sleep there. I never lost my dignity. I never lost my self-respect. I stayed clean. I stayed showered. I kept my shirt tucked in. I stayed respectable. Okay? So that night, paid $6, got me something to eat. Got up next day and I was broke. I started calling, just going down through the phone book, just calling. Every phone number, every ranch, every dude ranch, every cattle ranch, every anything. Picking up the phone and calling and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. This is who I am. This is what I could do. Didn't get a job that day. The lady who owned that campground said, look, if you'll pick up cigarette butts in the campground today, I'll feed you lunch and I'll give you another place to stay tonight. You can have another night. So I did. Because if you don't want it bad enough to pay whatever it takes, you didn't want it bad enough in the first place. Never be too proud to work. I picked up cigarette butts in that campground that day, and she fed me a sandwich and a bowl of soup. And I had another shower and another night's sleep that night. Next day, she said, my dad needs somebody to help him haul hay. I said, man, if I had a nickel for every bale of hay I've ever hauled, I can do that. I ain't too proud to work. So he come pick me up and we went and hauled hay for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, and he paid me $15. Well, there's another night's sleep. There's another supper that night. And the next day, one of the men I had called at one of it was the Absaroka Mountain Lodge up out of Wapiti. He came in, and his name was Dave Sweet. His wife and his family, they owned a lodge up there. We sat there on a picnic table out in front of that campground, and he hired me on the spot. $350 a month, plus room and board, and room was a bunkhouse with 3 other guys. I took it happily, excitedly, delightedly, and proudly. Went to work for him for the summer. That fall, I got a job with another local fella. Was able to get my wife and my baby and fly them back out. Lost my job with this other fella on Christmas Day that winter. But Deanna had started going to a little church up there in Wapiti. They were real good folks. And they stepped in. And the fellow who was the song leader of that church was straight up cowboy, worked on a local ranch. And he got me on calving that February. 20 below zero in Wyoming during calving season. I had the night shift. I showed up at 9 o'clock at night, and they had a little tack room in the barn that was about 6 foot wide by 12 foot long, and it had a little coal oil stove. Coal, not oil, coal. And so I stoked that thing up, run my sleeping bag out in front of it, and every hour on the hour, get up and go out and go through the cows that were kept up close to the barn for anything that had just calved or was fixing to calve. And if they had calved since that last hour, pick up the calf, carry the calf in the barn, put it in a jug on a big bed of straw, go out and find out which one was mama, belonged to that calf, and run her into the barn. And sometimes we had 2 or 3 of them a night. And that's how I got started. When spring came, they needed a hand on another ranch. And we wound up going up there and working on that ranch. And so that's how it started. So some lessons from that. This is not a paid vacation. Wrangling dudes or working for an outfitter is not a paid vacation. That's how so many people approach it. So if you want to get in this lifestyle, number one, like anything else in life, count the costs. Count the costs. You start calling, and you call, and you call, and you call, and you be honest. And you say, this is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. Okay, you don't lie about it. Now there seems to be a little bit of a misunderstanding on the channel here about me and the job I have here. Now I'm working on a cattle ranch and I'm cowboying, all right? But I am not a straight up top hand cowboy. We need to put that out there and make sure that's understood, okay? When I called and applied for this job, the boss says, okay, what can you do? And I said, this is my background. I can round up, herd, and push cattle. I can pull calves. And I can fence. I can do this and I can do that. And he said, can you hay? And I said, I haven't hayed in several years, but I've driven a tractor and a lot of other stuff. You point me at it one time and I'll figure it out. Okay, fair enough. So it came to the end, we almost done. I said, hey, I need to tell you something straight up. He said, okay. I said, before you hire me, you need to know. He said, okay. I said, I am the world's worst roper. And he laughed. He said, the world's worst. And I said, yeah, you probably never had anybody work for you who's a worse roper than I am. I can't rope for beans. And he said, okay. All right. He said, well, I'm not a very good roper either. And so when I got here and we started tagging calves and stuff, we went out there. And the first day he said, well, you weren't lying. You're not a very good roper. I said, well, I told you. Don't lie. Okay, don't lie. And be willing to take what you can get. Start at the bottom. Start at the bottom. You start calling, and if somebody says, look, I have a job. It's part-time. You'll work Monday through Thursday, and I'm going to pay you, whatever it is they're going to pay you, $300 a week. Take it. Take it. You say, Dwayne, I can't take that. I can't live on that. Then go find something else to do. Okay, that's the nature of this life. If you've got a mortgage, if you've got a car payment, and you're looking for a career, this isn't a career, it's a life. You have to start at the bottom and you have to learn. And you got to be willing to pay the price. If you can't take your kicks, you got to do something else. All right, I don't mean to sound harsh. I don't mean to sound rough, but I've paid my dues. I know what I'm talking about. Okay? So just gonna leave that there. I'm gonna do another video. This is the very next video I'll put out. Will probably be like, the top 5 things I wish I had known when I went into this life. Something along those lines. But I just wanted to give you a taste. I wanted to give you a story on how we got started. If you're chomping at the bit, and you're like, Dwayne, give me something concrete, whatever state you're in, like literally United States, okay? If you're in Missouri, whatever state you're in or whatever state you want to work in, they will have a Department of Tourism. And somewhere online, you will find a list of guest ranches, okay? Start doing some digging and some research, and you just start calling. www.ranchworldads.com. They have a section on jobs, people that are looking for work. Just start calling, okay? And if you're sure that this is what you want to do. And so the next video, maybe we'll have some more concrete things I can give you, but I just wanted to show you how I got started and just kind of open your eyes a little bit and let you understand that this isn't putting in an application to get on with the local electric company. All right. So this is Dwayne, and wishing you a logical, reasonable, and safe evening this evening, and we'll catch you next time.